podcast.
Hello and welcome to PMC English. This is Ayushi Farasi and welcome to yet another episode of podcast. In this episode of podcast, we are not going to discuss any topic, but we have something new in this episode of podcast, and it is your comments, the comments that we got from our audience. So we are going to clarify all those queries that we got in the comment section. So in this episode of podcast, Mr. Veda Vyas is going to answer all the queries and all the questions that we got in our comment section. So let us welcome Mr. Veda Vyas in this episode of podcast. Welcome to PMC English, sir.
Thank you, Ashi.
So today in this episode of podcast, there are few comments that we got from the general audience who are our viewers. So I want you to clarify all those queries for them. So the first comment that we got is on how to control bad temper. So it is from Mr. Rudra Rao. In that episode, Mr. Rudra Rao, he commented saying that Ayushi ma'am, you raised a good question, but I had one doubt on this, that if I am trying to do something good for that person and that person gets irritated just because they think that I am interfering in their life or work or whatever in their personal space. So what should we do? We should just go away from their life, or we should consume their anger and pursue what is happening. Because sometimes we see that something would be beneficial for them, but they are not actually seeing them. So they are just focusing on the immediate future about that, not the prolonged future it can be. So how we should deal with that, Mr. Veda Vyas, please enlighten upon this.
This is a typical question of most of the parents. I don't know if the context of the person who is asking the question, but typically if a parent looks at their kid doing a mistake, and should we allow them to make mistakes? Or should we guide them, or should we confine them, or how do I control? I cannot. So there is a struggle that's happening, right? And sometimes this spills over to rest of the life, not only in the context of child and a parent, where a parent has to take care, there is a responsibility. People start feeling responsible for others as well. They forget that they are only parent to their own kids, they start parenting others. But we have to see the context. In some context, if the kid is there, you have to take care of them, and there is a certain way you deal with it. If it is between adults, there is a totally different context again. So when you ask questions, you clarify the context, so I am able to give you pinpoint answers and get you to realize and create shift inside you, basically. But here in this context, what usually happens, why I said parent is called, there is in psychology, there is a concept called transactional psychology, in which there is a concept where each person has three types of behaviors. One is parent, one is adult, and one is child. So these three personality archetypes are explained. So a child personality is someone who feels they are helpless. A child is helpless, right? They don't have that strength, cannot take care of themselves. They need parents and family to support them. They are completely dependent, right? So this is child personality. So what is one way that child can assert themselves, claim their own thing, is by demanding things. What do children do?
They demand things.
They demand from parents. It's their right. And parents also feel it's children's right to ask, and they try to fulfill as much as possible, right? So this is a child personality. At childhood, when a kid is helpless, they need that support, and them acting like a child is necessary. Whereas after growing up also, people don't leave this.
Right.
We see some adults acting like kids, like they demand everything instead of actually deserving it. So then it is a different context. Then we need to understand why the child didn't grow up, and they have to address that.
Yeah, because at times it goes beyond the limit.
Yeah. And similarly, parents. The parent, who is parent personality? Parent personality is someone who has to take care of the child, so they are completely responsible. They are responsible for their family, they are responsible for their kid. If kid makes some mistakes, it reflects bad on the parent. And it questions, am I a good parent? So that's a huge problem. It's very painful problem, not huge, but really painful problem. So parent being responsible for the kid, if kid is life is going haywire, then parent will feel really bad. It's like their failure.
Yes.
So in that context, specifically, this question arises a lot. But if it is arising between adults, you are not only parenting your own kids, you are trying to parent everybody else. It's none of your business first. Right?
Right.
So the point is, the third personality is the adult. Adult personality is a person who understands boundaries, their sphere of responsibility and what is not in their responsibility. They won't try to overdo or underdo. They negotiate what they want and how much they are willing to do for what they want. What is the cost of it, what they are willing to pay, what they are not willing to pay. All of these things are actually playing into that process. So we'll have to ask a person, are you really parent? Or are you being an adult parent? That is, you are supposed to be adult, but you are still being parent. If that's happening, that is, if the context is that you are supposed to be an adult, but you are being parent, then please respect others' path of life. Everybody has tried to make their mistakes, and it's none of your business. But if you are a parent, then it is your business. In that case, even then, parents go into guilt mode because of this issue. Because this question arises because the person is struggling inside. It's painful to them to see their kid not able to be wise enough. Them making mistakes is painful to the parent. So we have to empathize that this question is coming from there.
But if it is not from the parent aspect and it is from the other aspect, then how do people deal with that?
The first, we have to check why they want to parent others. So you are dealing with an adult who is not your kid.
Yes.
Right? So we have to address that first. Some people have that tendency.
Yes.
Especially if you see, these are the people who have a lot of problem in society. Especially the question he asked, the way they said, if we are trying to help someone and they feel like we are interfering in their life. That interference, usually that kid will never feel like you are interfering in my life, because parent has right to interfere and kid also knows that they have right. They might not like it, they might get very angry and upset, but they will never say that you are interfering in my life. Unless it is here is crossing over the teenage to adult, then they might get to that position. By that position, we have to become adults with the kids also. We should have done everything that is required, and then kid has become an adult, he is a young adult. Now it's more like you should be friendly rather than keep controlling like a parent.
But if that question is in a friend context, then? Like, because at times friends also feel that they are interfering in your life.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Though the context is friend, the role you are playing is still a parent. So the person has seen you as a friend and you are trying to be their parent. Will it be acceptable? Not really, right? So we need to understand that each person has their own path in life and they have their own struggles, their own mistakes, their own suffering, through which they are going to learn something for themselves. So if you are able to respect that space, the relationship will be amazing. See, people come to me not because I teach them. Did I tell you do this or do that sometime? No. Did I tell you are doing something wrong? No. What did I do?
You just make me, see those things within myself.
Yes.
And then conquer them.
So what we did is, I respected your space. Yes. I didn't barge and say you are wrong, it should not be this way. I asked you a few questions, yes. Put you in a space where you are comfortable, and allowed you to make decisions. Because I trust you. Each person has amazing wisdom inside themselves. They might not be able to access it right now, but that's okay. But because I trust that you have amazing wisdom, I am able to help you to get to that. Once you get to that, will you make a decision that is damaging you?
No.
Not at all. Yes. So if you have made a decision for yourself, so it must be beneficial to you, right? Okay. So this giving other space is very difficult for certain people who have the tendency to parent others. Even in the parenting context, the children who get that space to be themselves grow creatively. If the parent is very controlling, over parenting is done, either child will become passive in the sense that they don't stop thinking for themselves and they just do what parent says. And in the adulthood also, they need someone to tell them what to do, otherwise they won't know. Yeah. You've seen such people probably. These people, you have to tell them, otherwise they won't know what to do. Right. They can't think by themselves because over parenting. Yes. And other condition is they become aggressive. Yes. They start fighting back. Yes. They start claiming their space. And these people, kids who grow up in that struggle, will start fighting against the whole world when they become adults. Because they had to fight with their parents, they feel that fighting is the way of life, that's what they have learned, and they don't let go of their parents. They see parents in their bosses, they see parents in every adult they see. Okay, that tendencies remain. Yes. So it is a developmental issue. When these things happen, you see such people who are interfering in our life, they are not called for, then know that they have a parenting issue. That is, they are trying to parent everybody. Some kids might feel responsible for their parents because parents are not capable. That also happens. And they start parenting from an early age. Maybe they start parenting their siblings. That was required at that time. But after a while, they don't let go. They don't give space to others. So we need to understand the context where this is coming from, the question itself. And for different context, where we have seen different contexts where it happens. So a parent-child relationship is very delicate. What is over-parenting, what is under-parenting? It's unique to each child and parent. There can be some generalizations, but it's very unique. So the parent personality and child personality and everything else that's happening, there is a lot of emotional struggle, and it creates pain, and there is love and pleasure, and this is a very complex relationship with complex emotions inside it. And it's very critical because child development will decide what the child's life is going to be like in future.
We have the other part of this comment too. Now that you answered a part of it, the second part, it says that running from all the situations that we cannot sustain would make us coward. So Mr. Veda Vyas, I wanted to ask you this, that if we are not able to handle any situation, we should close our eyes and think as if that situation is not a problem, and we should stop bothering about it. For me, it's like running away from it, but actually that problem affects somewhere within us, and I totally think it is an act of coward.
So it shows that the person is really thinking of developing themselves. They are really serious about it. Yes. So they are thinking. So the point here, we have already, I think in one episode we have discussed it, we'll repeat this point here. know that whether what you decide to do in that situation doesn't really matter. Whether you decide to fight and take care of the other person irrespective of what other person says, or if you close your eyes and say the problem doesn't exist, it really doesn't matter. Why does it really doesn't matter? Because it's still bothering you. Right?
Yes.
You want to be a coward, you want to be brave, really doesn't matter, because either way it's still bothering you, the pain is still there.
Yes.
You didn't address the pain. The moment you understand the root cause of what is troubling you, like me, if I am feeling that way, I have to understand what is really troubling me. Go deep inside myself and address that. Once that is addressed, then my view and number of options I have to solve this problem multiply. I have so much freedom now.
Yes.
So this freedom is what I was creating for you in those contexts, where we were going deep into that question.
Yes.
Instead of being one-sided, we try to resolve that pain, and once that resolved that pain, you felt like the problem doesn't exist.
Yes.
Why problem doesn't exist? Because now you have so many options, so many different ways you could deal with. So it's not a problem anymore.
Because I could find out the deep root of it.
Yes. So understanding that deep root from which, why is it troubling me? It's not about the problem or other person at all anymore. Because it's bothering me and it is painful to me, that I need to address it within myself. When I address it within myself, then suddenly it's not a problem anymore. Because I know exactly what to do there.
Yes.
That wisdom is there inside, which was covered up by this ignorance of that pain and suffering, that it's bothering me, the things are not going well, in so many ways.
Right.
But the moment I address that, suddenly I know exactly how to treat that person, how that person will listen, to what extent they listen, to what extent I should let them go also. Everything is clear, right?
Yes.
But if I didn't address that pain inside me, that is bothering me, that I am not able to help,
Yes.
then I don't have many questions, and there will be struggle from my side, there will be struggle from other side, and everything will be going to mess. There is no solution at all. So it's not really about closing your eyes and giving up. It's about really being brave enough to address yourself rather than addressing others.
Right. Wonderfully explained, sir. The other part of it, it says that we have learned from our childhood that we should not take bullying or anything like that. But according to you, we should close our eyes and think as if it is not bothering, but in reality, it has caused us our mental peace. So how should we deal with that?
Again, the same thing, that if a person has suffered from bullying
Yes.
and cannot believe that actually the pain can go away,
Yeah.
right? So it's very difficult for the person to accept that you can live without pain of bullying or fear of bullying, and you have to fight to have that space. Because in psychology and medicine, there is a word called homeostasis. Homeostasis means balance. We all find a balance. Many times it happens, some of my clients, they come for 1 month and they stop coming after a while and then come back after another month. What really is happening is they came because they are having such an amount of stress in their life that pushed them to change themselves, so they came for help. Within first few weeks, lot of that stress was released and they are not feeling that stress anymore. They know how to deal with life and all. Then they stop coming, my problem is solved now, it's not required right now. Then after a month, they go, I want to improve this and that and that and that, but I'm not, how can I do this? You can improve yourself only when your stress level is low. But if you wait till again your stress level is coming up, so that, because that is the balance you are used to. You are used to operating at a certain stress level.
Right.
And if you reduce that stress, you feel that you don't need help, then you can't grow, because growth happens when in the low stress level you have a space to do something that you want to grow in.
Absolutely.
But because the homeostasis wants you to be at a higher stress level, you build up the stress and then come back.
Yes.
Can you grow?
No.
It's not possible. So what we say is the homeostasis level has to go down and you have to maintain it there. You should not build it up again. For that you have to continue the process. So any new behavior, they say it takes about 1 month or 40 days, a mandala of practice is required because new homeostasis is being created. So here in this case, why homeostasis is just an explanation of something that happens to people. So practicing for a long time is important. But here in this context, when a person feels like they are used to bullying, they are used to fighting against bullies, it's really difficult to accept that you can live without that pain. You can live without that tendency to fight and have a peaceful life. Bullying in a certain context might be real, but without this fear and pain, you can deal with it better than with, and you have seen this,
Yes.
right? You felt that people were bullying. When we addressed inside, what happened?
It was a problem within myself.
No, after addressing, were you able to deal with the bullies or not?
Yeah, I was able to.
So
do
how
that.
was that experience?
And that was like, it's okay. If they're
It's just
doing
another
it,
relationship.
Yeah.
It was no more about bully at all.
Yes.
So the point is you can address things in a much better way without that pain than with it. We suddenly feel that pain inside me, that which is bothering me, is the reason I am so alive. Right? But it's not true. We can be alive by ourselves. We don't need that pain to be alive. But because we are used to, that's a homeostasis in which we are staying at, it is sort of what you say, we feel that it's necessary. But once you stop being in that pain, it's not easy to stop being in that pain. But if we are able to take help and resolve it to that extent, and we can actually live without pain, without the sense of people bullying me.
Right.
And you have experienced it.
Yes, absolutely.
In that episode itself, we spoke about, me feeling like I'm being a puppet. So here is a question related to that itself. So it is like, here in this video, Ayushi Mama said that she feels like controlling power over her. Controlling power and being a puppet are two different things. On controlling power, she can put some restrictions or limits, but puppets are like they don't have any control over them. And according to me, that anger issues can be solved easily if we know that we have control over the situation. And if we think as of puppets, we have lost the power of controlling to someone else already.
This feels like more of a question to you than me. So, I believe you can answer it better because you have gone through it.
Yes.
You can tell me how accepting being a puppet, did it reduce your control or increase your control over a situation?
When we were talking about that I was feeling like a puppet, at that particular moment of time I had certain anger issues or irritation that why am I being a puppet to them. But when I went deep inside me and when I realized that okay, it's okay to be attached to the strings of other people's and being a puppet. So it was like a normal thing that it's okay, just go on with the flow and just accept whatever comes your way. You need not feel it in another way that you're being a puppet also. So at that particular moment, it stopped bothering me as much as it was bothering me earlier.
When it stopped bothering you,
Yes.
did you have less control over your life or more control over your life?
More control over my life.
Did you have less control over the situation or more control over the situation?
More control over the situation.
So it's very counterintuitive, right? You accepted that you are a puppet and suddenly you have more control over others.
Right.
So what really happening here is, it's not about being a puppet or being the controlling power. These things don't matter really.
Yes.
What matters is what are you afraid of?
Right.
In that context, you are afraid of being puppet, so you are losing power. The moment you stop being afraid of being and accepted it's okay to be a puppet,
Yeah.
you regain your power.
Yes.
Once we have our power within ourselves, then we have more control over situations and ourselves and everything.
Right.
But if we are holding on to that fear,
Yes.
you keep losing power.
Right.
So it's not really about being puppet or control, or you can give 100 different contexts. All this is about is the fear. What is the fear that is making me weak? What is the fear that is making me controlled by others? The moment I let go of that fear, everything is better. How do I let go of it? This is one of the ways. Okay? So it is not really about the words puppet and control. It's all about that what is the exact fear I'm holding, address it, and then you have better control of the situation. It has nothing to do with the actual concept of being puppet.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Veda Vyas, there are few more comments that we got on different episodes and different topics that people have, heard to, and they wanted to clarify all these queries from you. So in the next episode, we are going to take few more comments so that you can also answer their queries. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining in this episode. So viewers, today we just clarified few of the comments that we got, and if you also have any other queries, then you can put your queries in the comment section, and in the upcoming episodes of podcast we are going to take those comments, and Mr. Veda Vyas will be helping you with the answers of it. So with this is Aishi Farasi signing off. Stay tuned to PMC English for more updates.
Podcast.